Hey guys, hope everyone is doing well tonight. This video I'm making by request. A lot of people have asked for me to just overview my basic Ableton Live setup for worship. And so I'm not going to talk a lot. I'm just going to dive right into it. But I just want to say in the comments below, I really am curious. I want to see what you guys are using. Are you using Ableton? Or are you using something else like Mainstage or Reason? What do you use for worship? What's your setup like? And also, I want to really hear from you guys questions. I will make as many videos as people are requesting. If you have a specific question about something I'm talking about or something I didn't show or you want more details, post below. Ask questions, and if I can't answer it, I'm sure someone else viewing all the comments would be able to help you out there. So awesome. Let's just get into it. I don't want to talk a lot. I want to dive into this. So this is my basic Ableton setup for worship that we use in multiple settings, many different churches, and at the House of Prayer where we are here right outside of New York City, Resting Place House of Prayer. And my setup really is it's my go-to setup for worship. It has all of my keyboard things in it, which I'm going to show you here. So let's just go through some of this. So Ableton is set up here. You have tracks that are vertical, and basically what these represent are, you can think of them as instruments. You could think of them as the things that create the sounds that you hear within Ableton. Okay, that's a very loose definition, but just to give you a concept. So the tracks are vertical, and then over here, these are called scenes. And I'll talk more about that later. We won't get so much into that today because that has more to do with using multi-tracks and backing tracks and stems and things. So let me just talk through my basic Ableton setup here. So the primary tracks that I use on a regular worship basis, whether I'm leading from the piano or whether I'm leading a band from the keys and someone else is leading, it is these 5 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let me go one by one. This one is right here are my backing pads or drone pads, sometimes they're called. These, I have all the keys. Actually, 2 of them are missing for some reason. I'm not sure how that happened, but I have all of the possible keys here, and I can play those. I'll show you those in a minute. Skipping over side chain because I'm going to do a separate video about that. That's for something completely different. Here we have live piano. So this is what I play all of my piano from. All of the sound is generated from Ableton, so that when we go from church to church, we go to different places, I know I always have the same sounds. And to show you what I use for piano, I use this awesome little app here. Let me drag it over to the right screen. Called Pianoteq. It's like $120 or so. One of the best little piano plugins. I said app before, but it's actually a plugin. It's just a great plugin. You can do so much with this, and I'll maybe do a separate video on that. But that's what I use for piano. Very affordable, very good sounds. Then I have over here my live pads 1 and 2. So this first live pad is generated from, actually they're both generated from Omnisphere. That's what I use for my pads. Let me drag this over to the right screen. And it's called Ambient Hum Whistle Pad. Plus I have taken that sound and tweaked it and messed with it a little bit. But that's the sound that I use for pad number 1. And pad number 1 is a low pad. You can hear it right here. So that's my low pad. And you can notice over here that I have it limited. I have the range of the pad limited. So as I'm getting up higher, as I'm getting up here, right here, above this F, you can see F3, that pad will stop playing behind the piano. Why? Because sometimes when you're playing piano in a worship setting and you have the pad going all the time, it can get really cluttered sounding, and I'll show that in a second. I'll demonstrate that more. So that's Live Pads 1, and then Live Pads 2 is also Omnisphere. Let me open it up here. Again, I don't want to get into Omnisphere and Pianoteq and those plugins so much, but my Live Pad 2 is what I would call my high pad. So let me get everything right here. So this is my high pad. You can also notice that I have this limited up at an A. And that is so that, again, things don't get too cluttered when I'm playing. So let me show you how I kind of use these together. Again, this is just my setup. This is what I use. And so here's the piano without any pads. Okay, and what I usually do is put some of the low pad in there underneath, just enough to give it some body and to give it some more sustain. Just really subtle. And sometimes you can mix then some high pad in and have control between the high and the low. So that's kind of my go-to piano and pad settings. There's other pads that I use, there's other things, but that's, again, general Worship 101 in Ableton as far as my setup. Now, something else that I do here is actually an arpeggiated synth that I use to just give some motion to something. So let me show you how I use that. A little subtle background. Sometimes it's nice to just have something moving in there, and there's certain songs where that really comes in handy, and I'll open that up and show you. That's all this is right here. Again, the Omnisphere is generating the sounds called Clicker Pluck. You can see it right there. And then I use the arpeggiator that is in Ableton, which takes my tempo here and arpeggiates what I'm playing on that track. So I really don't use that one a whole lot, but it's nice to have some motion. So that's basically it for piano and pads. Now let me go back here and show you. There's a lot of talk these days about worship pads. That is like the thing. Everyone has questions. What are worship pads? Where do I get them? How do I use them? And so what I just showed you with my live piano and my live pads 1 and 2, those are pads that follow what I'm playing. Those high and low pads are following what I'm doing on the keyboard. So whatever I play, the piano is sounding and those pads are sounding as well. So the trick in modern worship and kind of the way we flow is to also mix in a pad that just plays something steady the whole time. Specifically, what it plays is a 1 if we're in the key of C, a 1, and a 5. It outlines 1, 5, 1 in whatever key you're in. So I have my motion pads here that I created. I couldn't really find anything that I liked, so I adapted and made these. And I'll just play the one in C so you can hear it. Hold on, let me switch. Sorry, I had the wrong output. There you go. Now you can hear it. So that's just C. 1, 5, 1. And listen now to the difference when I'm playing around. Let me play a progression without those drone pads. Just doing it nice and simple, nice and open. Now listen when I put these pads behind it and do a similar progression. Just fills out that sound and gives it so much more sustain, gives it body, it sets the atmosphere. And it's important to understand the difference between pads that follow what you're playing in your hands and pads that are just doing a steady drone in the key that you're in. So that is basically the overview of my Ableton setup. Just so you know, also I didn't mention, but these are actually just wave files that are playing. These are wave files. There's a way in Ableton to sample them and have much shorter wave files, but I was getting fragments and things that I didn't like hearing even at the highest settings. So I just loaded in very long wave files, and I have enough memory to be able to do that. You can see here it's these are an hour long each pads, because our worship sets are sometimes hour and a half, 2 hours. So these are wave files that will just play underneath what I'm doing over here in these other tracks. Check out my other video. The link is down below, where I go into great detail about how we use backing tracks and stems. You can see all of the songs here that we use. A lot of them you guys probably know. So we use a lot of things like that. Check out the video below where I go into a lot of detail about how we flow in worship and also use backing tracks and stems. And again, comment below. Give me your thoughts. Give me your feedback. Add your knowledge. Tell me about your setup with Ableton. And let me know if there's other videos you want to see or more detail on any of this that you would like me to go into, and I'd be glad to make some more videos. All right? Hope you guys are blessed, and keep creating worship music out there to glorify the King using your talents and gifts. Talk to you guys soon.